It's Thanksgiving week, so happy Thanksgiving. And I definitely would like to say that I'm very thankful for all of you who have been watching these videos. I'll be even more thankful if you could like and subscribe. And once again, I'd like to remind you that there's a huge percentage of people watching this video that are not subscribers. So please very easily press the subscribe button, and you can more easily follow these videos, which are released every Tuesday at noon. And that brings us back to Thanksgiving and a very special subject, which is the long-running children's show, Captain Kangaroo, which ran on CBS for almost 30 years, premiered in October of 1955 and ran through 1984, and then for a few years after that on PBS. And that means this is the 65th anniversary of the Captain Kangaroo TV show, which reminds me, there is a significant Disney connection here. Do you know what it is? I'll tell you about the Disney connection toward the end of this video. And we'll also get back to Thanksgiving later in this video. But for now, those of you who don't know, Captain Kangaroo was a daily TV show. It ran on weekday mornings and for a good many years on Saturday mornings too. Captain Kangaroo was created by and starred Bob Keeshan, who played Captain Kangaroo, who was sort of a captain of the guards of a museum. So in other words, you could visit this museum, he would welcome you, he would introduce you to all the marvelous things that could be seen in the museum. They came up with a very clever and beloved name for a museum, a child-friendly name, the Treasure House. What else would you call a museum? Anything could be found in this museum, including a look at the world outside, and that was up to the farmer character, who was called Mr. Green Jeans, and he was played by Hugh Lumpy Brainham. There are of course many other characters, some of them puppets, such as Mr. Moose, Bunny Rabbit, who was originally called Mr. Bunny Rabbit, and also one of the most unusual puppets to ever appear on TV or anywhere, Grandfather Clock, who was a full-sized grandfather clock. And there were many other elements, such as the magic drawing board, Fred, an animated character who appeared on Channel 1, and the much-beloved Dancing Bear. Unfortunately, very few episodes of this wonderful TV show exist, because in the first few years of the show, it was live, and then even when it went to videotape in the mid to late 50s, these tapes were regularly erased. But one way we can enjoy the show today is through the multitude of memorabilia that was issued over the years. For example, this record album. Because many records were released over the years, the show had lots of music, lots of musical numbers and segments. It was really like a variety show for preschoolers. But there was a lot of other merchandise as well. Some of them were premiums that were tied into the sponsors. You might remember my video about drinking glasses. This is the Howdy Doody one. And interestingly enough, Bob Keeshan started on the Howdy Doody show because he was the original Clarabelle the Clown. And even though, to my knowledge, there were not Captain Kangaroo drinking glasses, there was this very popular cup, plastic as you can see, that was released in 1961 as a packaged premium with Colgate toothpaste, which was a long-running sponsor of Captain Kangaroo. So, of course, the idea was to rinse your mouth after you brushed your teeth, sort of the opposite of a drinking glass. But it's really fun because it says here Captain Kangaroo, and it's Captain Kangaroo's head, basically. And most fun of all, it has these googly eyes. So a really fun and unique premium. But aside from premiums that were tied into the sponsors, there were many, many pieces of merchandise issued over 29 years. But there were also toys, games, lunch boxes, dolls, all kinds of memorabilia. There were also all kinds of books, including storybooks, activity books like the Sticker Fun book, coloring books, all kinds of published material. And puzzles were very popular, such as this one, which has this great photo of Dancing Bear, Captain, and Mr. Green Jeans outside the treasure house. There were also Viewmasters, which is really fun because it gives us this on-the-set, three-dimensional type view of the wonderful set that was used. As I said, Captain premiered in 1955, so this gives us a view of the original treasure house, or at least one of them. I think there were a few different versions in the first few years. And this treasure house was what I call stylized because a lot of it was painted on. You can kind of see here the wall is not three-dimensional, it's painted. If we move over to the desk, we can see this big ball on the shelf above with a B on it. That too was painted on. This particular treasure house was used until 1965. Now it's just too bad we don't have a Viewmaster that centers on the 1965 version because it really was the most wonderful version of the treasure house. But wait, I think we do. Yes. First of all, to differentiate this Viewmaster set from this one, that of course was called Captain Kangaroo. This was called the Captain Kangaroo Show. It sort of centered on the idea that this was a television show that was being filmed. But it's really wonderful because it shows the best version of the treasure house, in my opinion. It's very homey, beautifully designed, not stylized, three-dimensional, with a beautiful garden set outside the treasure house. And then starting in 1971, there was a third version of the treasure house, and things were changed quite a bit actually, because now the treasure house was no longer called the treasure house, but was called the Captain's Place. And this set was extremely stylized, almost like a very creative Broadway musical set or a children's illustration come to life, because they made no pretense about this being a set. It was very flat, very colorful, and was more fanciful than real. It was also at this time the captain started wearing his red blazer as opposed to this dark blue that had been seen since 1955. I know I had mentioned that there are several record albums, and this is one of them. This was done in the late 1960s and was definitely the time of that second treasure house that I mentioned. And it's really fun because it really emphasizes the different characters of the treasure house. In fact, it's called Captain Kangaroo and His Friends Sing Songs of the Treasure House. And on the back, some black and white photos. And it says the original cast is seen on the CBS television network. And it's definitely worth noting that the puppet characters were all portrayed by Cosmo Allegretti, who was an amazingly talented performer. He was also the treasure house artist, performed on screen as Harlequin, or Harley the Clown. I mentioned that there were dolls. Here is one of the best. This is Captain Kangaroo, obviously, and very stylized. And it's really fun because this is from 1967, so that means a couple things. They had this line of kind of rag dolls, which were very stylized and meant to be very cuddly. And they're really elaborate. Look at the buttons, the tie, even the shirt has stripes, his hat, and the pockets. And now that I'm mentioning the pockets, in case you were wondering, that's why Captain Kangaroo was called Captain Kangaroo, because he had these big pockets on his costume. And these giant pockets could contain all kinds of wonders. He could pull anything out of there, especially carrots for Bunny Rabbit. Another interesting thing about this Mattel toy from that era is that it's a talking doll. And as you know from my earlier video about Mattel Snoopy and Charlie Brown toys, talking toys were a big Mattel emphasis at that time because they had created this technology where you pulled the string and the character would say random things. But it's really fun because the voice that issued forth was actually Bob Keeshan as Captain Kangaroo, and he said, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 different phrases, including, do remember to say please and thank you. Remember to share and be kind to everybody. What a great philosophy. It's kind of like be excellent to each other. And of course, he also said, hi there, I'm Captain Kangaroo. So in just a moment, I'm going to move on to Thanksgiving and what that has to do with Captain Kangaroo. But first, I promised I would tell you what the Disney connection is, and that is Captain Kangaroo premiered on October 3rd, 1955. Yes, that's right. Walt Disney's Mickey Mouse Club, starring Annette, premiered on the very same day. So it's kind of incredible that two milestone children's shows premiered on TV on the very same day, but that's exactly what happened. Now, to get back to the whole idea of Thanksgiving, I wanted to show you another record. This is a single, of course, and it has this wonderful photo of Dancing Bear, Mr. Green Jeans, Bunny Rabbit, Mr. Moose, Captain, and in the most wonderful version of the Treasure House. And the reason I like this so much is this photo really shows that these characters were a family. And this little family celebrated Thanksgiving every year. They really had a wonderful tradition for many years where the show centered on the characters getting ready for their Thanksgiving feast. Then at the end of the show, they had a big table in the garden, and Captain would talk about the values of America, freedoms, which is certainly the basis of our Thanksgiving Day, isn't it? And the way that he would do it is he would use some of the most famous of the Norman Rockwell paintings, his very, very famous series of paintings called The Four Freedoms. As hard as it is to summarize all that we enjoy in this country and are grateful for as Americans, Norman Rockwell kind of summed it up in just 4 paintings. Here's one of them here in this ad, which is certainly one of the most famous. To this day, this painting is always pulled out for Thanksgiving because it does show what appears to be a Thanksgiving feast. And as I said, Captain would use the 4 paintings by Norman Rockwell to very briefly explain all that we are grateful for in this country on Thanksgiving Day and every day. Freedom of speech, freedom of worship, freedom from fear, freedom from want. Then we would see the characters gathered at the table. We would hear one of the most famous of all Thanksgiving songs, and the version that was used was one of the most popular ever recorded, the version by Perry Como. As viewers heard the song being sung, the Captain Kangaroo characters would bow their heads in prayer. The screen would simply fade to black. There were no end credits, as we heard the very stirring final words of that recording. Lord, make us free.
We all do extol thee, our leader in battle, and pray that thou still our defender wilt be. Let thy congregation escape tribulation, thy name be ever praised.